To solve on number 16, again, we need the common denominator. There's 3 pieces here, so you cannot just cross multiply. You need to pretend, that the 2 is over 1, so that you're looking at each denominator. And we need to factor this denominator to see if it has anything in common with the other one. It's the difference of squares, so it's going to be x plus 1 and x minus 1 here. And it has an x plus 1 in common with that one on the left here. So deciding our common denominator, we need an x plus 1 for sure, because that has x plus 1. This also has one x plus 1, so we require to have one of them. And we need an x minus 1. And this one just has 1 there, so we don't write the 1 there unless it was some other number. We would have to put it there. So we need to multiply each numerator by this x plus 1 times x minus 1. X plus 1 times x minus 1 to get our denominators to reduce. Plus 1 x minus 1. And you'll only be doing this when there is an equal sign in it to get your denominators to cancel out. That's the goal. So on this first one, what cancels is the x plus 1 cancels there and cancels there. So the first numerator needs to be multiplied by x minus 1. Then we have our equals, keep that in the same spot. On this one, the x plus 1's cancel, and so do the x minus 1's. So actually the entire denominator just cancels with that, and we just end up with 12. On the right side, nothing cancels, so we need to have plus 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. So I'm going to have to FOIL this and then distribute the 2 for this portion of the equation. Over here, I'll just be distributing that. So I'm going to work this left to right, and then I'll worry about that in a minute. 3x times x, 3x squared, minus 3x times 1, 3x, equals, copy the 12, copy the 2, and in parentheses, I need to FOIL this together. Now, actually, we already know what it is, because here it was multiplied together. We had already factored it, so we're not really having to do that work. We just can look right here and see what it was. X squared minus 1 is what it is when you FOIL it together. And we need to distribute that 2 throughout there. So we have 3x squared minus 3x equals 12 plus 2x squared minus 2. I'm just distributing the 2 through those parentheses there. So let me get some more room here for us. We have x squared on both sides, so I'm going to subtract 2x squared to get my x squareds together. And it leaves me with x squared minus 3x equals, and then the 12 minus the 2, those can combine, and it can be 10 there. So since I have x squareds and x's, I know that I need to bring everything to one side and that I will end up factoring. So to move the 10, you need to subtract it, and you end up with x squared minus 3x minus 10 equal to 0. So we need to factor that. We need factors of negative 10. So we need to think about negative 10 and factor it, like negative 1 and 10, negative 10 and 1, negative 2 and 5, negative 5 and 2. These are just all my options. Remember that when you add these together, you need to get a negative 3. That's how you know what you need for the middle term there. So if I were to add these last two, I would get a negative 3. So those are the factors that I need. So I'm going to kind of move this over here and write it in parentheses like we're used to, equal to 0. It's going to be x minus 5 and x plus 2. And you need to set each of those equal to 0, because if one of them was 0 and then you multiplied by the other, you would get 0. So you're going to have two options here. We're going to add 5 and get x equals 5, subtract 2 and get x equals negative 2. So these are my two options for answers. Now, one thing you have to make sure of is that if you plugged it back into your original denominators, that you will not get 0 anywhere. If you, for example, if you had negative 1 for an answer and you plugged it into this first denominator, you would end up getting 0, and that's not allowed. So you need to double check that neither of these will give you a 0 when you plug them into the denominator. And neither of them do, so here we have two answers, 5 and negative 2. Now I also want to do number 17 on this page. Number 17 just is saying, is x equals 3 a solution of this equation here? And please show the work. So to do this problem, all I will do is plug in -3 as x and see if I get a true statement. 4 times -3 there on the top, -3 plus 2, that's that first thing there, equals to 1 plus 8 over -3 plus 2 there. So on the left side, I'm going to have -12 there on top. -3 and 2 is -1. 1 plus 8 over -3 and 2 is -1. So here I'm going to get positive 12 equals 1. 8 divided by -1 is -8. So 12 equal to 1 minus 8, -7. Is 12 equal to -7? No, it is not. So -3 is not a solution to this problem. So this is the answer, and you would have to have the work plugging it in to show. You don't just get to say yes or no.